you guys cut those turnovers in half and you're right in this game. What is that kind of the growing, the growth curve of a young team, and as you're feeling your way, moments where you have scoring runs, cut leads down. You were down 11 in the first, cut it to 1. You were down 19. Wheels didn't come off. You guys came back. Turnovers kind of cornered you there.
Yeah, really, when you look at the numbers, the aspects that jump out is St. Mary's had 21 assists to our 10 assists. And that's tied to, making the extra pass. And we, at times, demonstrated propensity for over-dribbling. And as I explained to the team, you get into conference play, there's a compressed margin for error, and the scouting is very thorough, because it carries over from last year, this year for returning players. And there's more of a sample size. And then we played a non-conference schedule, so even our newcomers are under greater scrutiny for scouting reports. And when we move the ball crisply and get good shots, as we did against Arizona State, we had 21 assists in that game. And tonight, St. Mary's had 21 assists. So, the team that is transporting the ball through the air and using the bounce with purpose. And that's when we're at our best. And I thought tonight there were some stretches where we made, 2 or 3 extra dribbles, or we took some unnecessary dribbles that led to St. Mary's kind of clamping down. And again, back to their scouting report, was to really use their rakes and shovels to steal the ball. And those turnovers are worth points. And so ultimately that's where the separation happened, because we shot, I think, 54% from the field, 55% from the three. I mean, we had one of our better offensive numbers in terms of shooting percentage, but those turnovers are empty possessions where we don't get a shot on the rim, we don't have a chance to get fouled, we don't have a chance to get a second shot. And so empty possessions are empty possessions are costly when you're playing the team picked to win the league. They're picked to win it, we're picked last. And I think our players learned that if we can remedy some of the shortcomings and improve upon aspects of play that they're calling out for it, then we can really close the gap, with the top of the league and where we are picked.
What's kind of your takeaway from what Deuce was able to do offensively tonight?
Nothing that Deuce does surprises us, because we see it on a daily basis in practice. He's second in Philadelphia high school history. He passed Wilt Chamberlain in his senior year of high school to become the second all-time leading scorer in Philadelphia history. And Wilt Chamberlain could put up numbers with the best of them in the history of basketball. And then I think he scored 60 in a game. He started his career at Bucknell, then transferred to South Plains in Texas. And I believe he got 50 or 60 in a game there. And we had a chance to watch that game film when we were recruiting him. And then what he does in practice, he is as appropriately named as any player I can think of in college basketball, Deuce, because he is a bucket. And often it's also from behind the three-point line. So, but yeah, he has a tremendous feel. He plays at a pace that allows him to make good judgments, and his hand-eye coordination's outstanding. And because he's, more diminutive than many guards in college basketball, he's learned how to be creative and create his own shot and separate or, create distance between himself and a defender to get off his shots. So proud of him that he got a career high. But I also know, as competitive as he is, that he would have rather had 20 and us win, or had 16 and us get the win. But it's a good sign. We need him playing well and confident. And he prevents us from going into the desert and gives us a chance to always come back in games if we can get a string of stops or shutouts. And that's, what allowed us to crawl back into the game.
Is there, as you kind of stack these building blocks together, as you work on this program from this altitude, and there's games, but then there's the bigger stuff. like I said, these comebacks, you have 5 comebacks, the
Yep.
double-digit deficits. There's something about these. What do you take away from the moments that this team could lose games, could get blown out, but you're still got guys diving on the floor in the final 2 minutes, stuff like that?
Yeah, their character, their grit, resolve, fight back is impressive, and that's what we're most proud of, and it gives us something to build off of. And in particular, because we haven't been at full strength yet. I mean, we have 3 6'9" players in this recruiting class that weren't able to play tonight. So we've had this kind of mash unit with Santiago, with David, with Jimmy. They're all 6'8", 6'9", and would have had an effect on this game, and we know that. Yet, we've still finding ways to be competitive. And if we ever get back to full strength, or even if it's a year from now that we're back to full strength, I think the valuable minutes, the big moments that this team has experienced is going to give us the kind of depth that's critical if you want to move up the ladder in the West Coast Conference.
Did Jimmy, was it an ankle with him?
It was a game time kind of decision, where we felt in his best interest to, not push it, not force it. And, even with Deuce, as banged up as he was, we considered, do we, let him get some extra rest because we're getting so many reps in practice. The challenge, I think we have 9 players that are out, so half our team is out with injuries of one kind or another. And the challenge with that is, now, in practice, you've got to really, be strategic in how long you go and, the reps going up and down the court, keep it on the half court enough so that you're conserving some of the energy you need for the game. But also, you don't want to be rusty, so it's a fine line where you need to get them up and down and play at a level that simulates the game, but also have enough guys when you roll into that game. So it's the second year where we're dealing with this rash of injuries and illnesses. And this is unprecedented in my experience. I mean, I thought last year was unusual, but this is something that's unprecedented in my experience. But back to your original question, it's somebody always steps up and we find a way to solve some problems. And it's also dictated that we put in different defenses and explore different pressing units and big lineup or small lineup. And so we're learning a lot about the team, kind of a crash course by them being shorthanded and not being at full strength. But we'd like to get to a point, I don't know, is that February where we're closer to full strength? But the sooner the better, because that plays into utilizing our depth and wearing down opponents. And tonight we didn't have the depth that we had, let's say, even against Arizona State, to be able to come back in that game and ultimately, win a game.
Coach, how difficult is it this stretch now, where you got to go up to Gonzaga, especially with a younger team?
Well, it's the first thing we talked about in the locker room was, hey, we showed the 21 assists to our 10 assists, our turnovers, and 27 points that were scored off of our turnovers. So 81, you take away 27 points, St. Mary's is sitting at 54 points. But they went to 81 because of our turnovers, and that they didn't have to earn those points, against our set defense. A lot of those they were able to get steals, get out in transition, and get some easy baskets off our steals, live ball turnovers, right, where you can't. If we kick it out of bounds, okay, we can set our defense. But the live ball ones where we have it, then they get it and they go score because we can't get back and set our defense. Those are extra costly, like pick sixes in football. You've got the chance to go in and to the end zone and score. Now they go 80 yards off an interception, and it's a 14-point swing, right? 7 you could have gotten, 7 they get. And we had a number of those, which is what led to their 27 points off our miscues. And they're correctable errors. So we also said, hey, these are sometimes over dribbling, sometimes just transporting the ball quickly is more effective to get a high percentage shot. And I thought that's where St. Mary's showed some of their experience in, continuing to kind of move the ball, players making themselves available and using the bounce with purpose, but also transporting it very quickly. So we addressed, those issues of the disparity in their assists versus ours, and our turnovers, and how costly those were. Because we were good offensively. Our numbers offensively were outstanding, other than the turnovers and the assists. But quick pivot. We're going to get on a plane tomorrow and go practice up at the kennel in Spokane, and get dinner, get our rest, and then have a shoot around Saturday morning, and we'll tip it up at 6 o'clock. So it's a good lesson for the freshmen, and that we can't allow this game to bleed into our next game against Gonzaga. We got to learn from it and then move forward and get ready. And this league is a rugged league, and we're playing, as challenging a start as you can imagine. We get Gonzaga twice this month. We had just had St. Mary's. We come home to USF. So the top of the league, we're going to play early here in January. It's not like we were able to kind of work our way into the deep end. We dropped into the deep end with our first conference game, and continue it on Saturday, and then when we come home. So a crash course, kind of baptism by fire situation.
High, what's it like, especially in that first half, when you're that hot? Does it kind of feel like everything's going in?
Yeah, I started to feel like my normal self. I have a history of scoring the ball and making shots. So when I got it going early, usually I don't get it going until the second half. I have big second halves. It was just nice to get it going in the first half, and my teammates did well with seeing that and looking for me, and really looking for me and spacing out, and seeing that any shot was pretty much taken was going in. So I commend my teammates for that, honestly.
How do you feel when you're filling it up like that? In the first half, I saw you got a little moxie going. Take us on the court. How's that feel when you're in that flow?
I mean, you just kind of lose yourself. I mean, I'm not worried about the crowd. I'm not worried about anything else in life. It's just strictly in between those lines. You feel great, kind of like it's kind of an out-of-body experience. It's not conscious. It's coming from your subconscious, like, you're just shooting around in the park. That's kind of the feeling that you get, like you're just by yourself, and you kind of imagine games like this. It's just nice to have one.
And then as you build this program up, the first half encouraging, do you take from that it was an encouraging first half against St. Mary's?
Yeah. I mean, we had a lot of turnovers, even in the first half. So we cut back on those. Honestly, we were probably up in the first half. We was at 5 points to the first. We were down. Had a big shot by PJ going into it, but we felt really comfortable early on. We just gotta make adjustments as to getting stops, because they have 41 points in the first half, and we can't allow that, especially for the pace that they usually play at.
What is a program you guys are trying to build something here with a lot of young guys? You kind of have up and down nights, like the Arizona State win was big.
Yeah.
And you have nights like tonight where you have a lot of turnovers. What's the hardest thing about being consistent with this group right now? You can see moments where the talent's there, obviously, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think the biggest thing is just mental, Like I always preach not getting too high and not getting too low. And in these little moments when we lose these type of games, just understanding why we lost and making it a focal point of, going forward, we can't do this. We can't resort backwards, we have to go forward. And being around the game in college, you kind of learn that. I didn't have it early on my freshman year, but that's kind of, with the young group, that's kind of the biggest challenge, is with the inexperience, just understanding that it's up and down, and just kind of learning from it and not getting too down on ourselves.
A lot of teams, you guys have had a lot of comebacks and games you've been down. I think 5 double-digit games that you've won. You guys are down 19 you're down 11 in the first half, cut it to 1. You're down 19 in the second half. The wheels could have came off, but it didn't. You guys are still diving on the floor in the final 2 minutes and cutting that lead down. What is it about this group is there an encouraging part of it that it seems like you guys don't give up on possessions and the fight's still there even if you're down?
Yeah, that's what I love about this team. We didn't have that last year at all, and you felt the energy last year, being a part of that. As soon as we got down, it was just, it's just one of those nights, like, we're just going to lose. We're just not good enough. But none of the guys feel like that. They're hungry. So when they're out there, they're really like, all right, we're down this much, but we're not worried about how much we're down. We're worried about how do we come back? How do we keep fighting back? And that's what I love about this group, you know. I think the inexperience comes with that. Just being in college ball, they just want to play as hard as they can. And you see that when we're down, we play our hardest and we just play until the last buzzer, no matter how much we're down by.
The second half, they had Marcelonis. It was clear his one thing was just going to be to shadow you. I'm sure you had that kind of coverage before, but just what was that like? With that guy was basically just going to follow you no matter what. He wasn't even looking at the ball.
Yeah. Like you said, you know, I'm used to that coverage. Haven't seen it. I've seen it in spurts this year, but really like that, that was heavy. He did a good job at limiting my touches. He did a good job of getting me out of, you know, scoring zone to have to create harder shots for myself. But that's going forward, just knowing me, watching the film and saying, how can I get easier looks, easier shots in the second half? I knew they were going to make that adjustment as well, given my hot start. But, you know, it's just going forward, knowing like when teams do that, how can I get clean looks? How can I get good looks? Because I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to see it again.
It's a compliment.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It really is.
It's almost like a box in one kind.
Yeah.
Oh, the last thing I'll ask, you guys come right out of the chute with playing three of the best teams in the conference, and then you come back and play Gonzaga again. So you're going to learn quick how you stack up. What was your thoughts coming in, knowing that what the schedule is, and then your thoughts now that you've had one game under your belt?
Yeah, well, I mean, we started off like we were picked last, they were picked first. That's something that we talked about. So we understand that what we're getting ourselves into, and I think it's going to be very encouraging, especially for us, that they were picked first, we were picked last, and to see like, you know, we can cut the game being down, you know, double digits and cut it. And just seeing like how many times we just gave them the ball and how many times, you know, they had 27 points off our turnovers. We cut that in half, you know, we won the ball game. So it's like really encouraging for us that going into Spokane and then San Francisco, like we cut back on that. You know, we put ourselves in a good position. And then, you know, obviously we got to play all these teams again. So it's like learning from our first experiences and knowing that we're going to make these adjustments and we can see if they can beat us with our adjustments.
He's kind of going on that point. How tough is it when you're playing the top two teams in the conference within like a 3-day stretch?
It's really tough, especially, you know, we prepare all week for St. Mary's. Obviously, we don't get a chance until tomorrow to talk about Gonzaga, which is one of the top teams in the country. So it's really just a mindset shift to go from this game and just can't really worry about it. Just take what we learned going into next game, and no matter what, we just fix what we did this game, and then, you know, see how the game turns out. You know, like Coach preached on, you know, we're not going to get better physically, but we can get better mentally, and I think that's going to be a big key for us going into Spokane.